Hey guys! So I thought that I could read you a funny excerpt of a book for, I don't know, just fun sleepy times. So the book I've been reading is Scrappy Little Nobody by Anna Kendrick. I guess it's her memoir. I just love tapping on books. Like, it's gotten to the point where if I walk by a book, I'll just be like, and if I'm with friends who like know what ASMR is, I'll just be like, ASMR, ASMR, ASMR. And then we laugh because we're weird and people will be like, what are they doing? Why are they tapping on things? And then they slowly move away. Anyway, but yeah, I really dug this book. She talks a lot about feeling weird and kind of it doesn't feel like she fits in, especially like as a kid, and I related deeply to that. Perhaps you do as well, my fellow weirdos maybe. So I just thought I would read just like, I don't know, just like a little bit, just for, could be like a, just very funny and relatable, and I definitely have a crush on her for realsies. Anyway, but yeah, I so have some good sleepy story time. Lay down, put your head on the pillow, close your beautiful eyes, and yeah, just fall asleep. Here we go. So this is the first chapter, and it is called A Few Disclaimers. And I guess it has just like little sections, and well, you'll figure it out. Alright, here we go. I'm not cool. Cool spelled with a K. Jessica was the first person to mistake me for someone cool. When I was in kindergarten, both of my parents worked full-time, so I went to an after-school program. Every day, a van picked up a few kids from my class and made stops at local schools around the city before driving us to the YMCA in downtown Portland, Maine. I had recently discovered, thanks to an incident my mother and father just loved to recount, that I did not make a good first impression. Over the summer, we'd been to a family campground, and while other children met and became immediate playmates, that power evaded me. I sulked for the better part of a week and eventually asked my parents, "Will you find me a friend?" I don't get why that's so funny. That's basically how I feel as an adult. Will one of you guys find me a friend? When we picked up Jessica from her school, she marched to the very back of the van, one row behind me, and tapped me on the shoulder. For a 5-year-old, she was a deeply confident girl. Jessica was ready to judge her fellow passengers. "Are you friends with anyone else here?" she asked. My animal instincts knew she was the alpha, and I needed to think fast to impress her. "Oh," I said. "Dan, in the front seat. I know him." I'd known Dan since 8 o'clock that morning, but admitting I was a friendless seems like it would be worse than lying, so I took the risk. But then I had a terrifying thought. What if she talks to Dan next? I continued, "I know Dan, but..." I leaned in. "He's kind of weird." "Oh." She nodded her head in recognition. Being judgmental was really taking me places. She narrowed her eyes. "We won't play with him." "If you say so, Jessica. Your alpha energy is just making me feel alive." More kids got in the van, and Jessica made her assessments swiftly. By the time we arrived, she had curated a small group of girls she deemed worthy and said, "We're going to play together. We're the Cool Kids Club." Hold up, Jess. I'm in the Cool Kids Club? I was 5 years old, but I already knew that wasn't right. Just hang in there, Kendrick. Don't mess this up. The group decided we'd officially call ourselves the Cool Kids Club. Since kindergartners are so pressed for time, we decided to just use the initials. And since kindergartners are excellent at spelling, we called ourselves the KKK. When I proudly announced my new affiliation to my mother, she scrambled to explain that neither cool nor club starts with K. But I'd seen billboards for cool cigarettes, so she wasn't fooling me. The next day, during outtime playtime at the Y, Jessica walked straight up to Dan and yelled, "We're not going to play with you." She stomped off dramatically and took the rest of the girls with her. "What the hell was that, Jessica? I said the kid was kind of weird. I didn't say he dismembered cats. You were only supposed to avoid him long enough that I wouldn't be caught in my lie." Jessica became my first enemy. Like most enemies in my life, I hoped to punish her with passive-aggressive glances and silent but passionate resentment. She retaliated by forgetting I existed. Ah, the moral victory. I am a very, very small weirdo. First grade was when I realized I was small. I was the smallest, youngest-looking child in every group, no matter the situation. In fact, this is something to bear in mind as we go. Whatever age I am in a given story, subtract 3 to 4 years, and that's what I look like. And then there's like a little asterisk in the book, and then you go down and it says, "Except when I was born, my God, I was so fat I almost killed my mother." And while that's gross, it's completely true. If we lived in a time before cesarean sections, she wouldn't have survived. I'd also like to thank C-sections for sparing the mental anguish of knowing that I once passed through my mother's vaginal canal. And then back to the book. We were learning about outer space, and our teacher brought in a chart that told us what we would weigh on all the different planets. We were so excited to find out how crazy heavy we'd be on Jupiter and how crazy light we'd be on Pluto. My weight wasn't listed. It became clear that I didn't make the cut because there was no calculation for what I would weigh on Pluto. I would weigh nothing, less than nothing. I would drift into space. Oh man, I wasn't just the smallest one in the class. I was a freak. There was no metric for how deformed I was. It was one thing to be the Chihuahua in a group of Labradors. It was quite another to be the hamster. That night I cried to my mother, who assured me that she'd been small at my age too. "Wow, that really doesn't help me right now, Mom." When I calmed down, I saw her point. She turned out fine. She wasn't living in a special community for the physically repulsive. So I decided I could go back to school the next day. Even adults thought I was younger than I was. This made me extra sensitive, and though they may have meant well, I became one of those little kids that didn't enjoy grown-ups fucking with me. One summer, a Russian wrestling team came through my hometown. My dad had been a wrestler in college, and I believe he was a bit starstruck. He took me to watch their first match, and after letting me play imagination under the bleachers for a few hours, he pushed me at the imposing coach, an absolute caricature of a man. The coach eyed me and asked, "What's your name, little girl?" "Anna." "Ah, Anya." "Foreigners," I stewed. "No," I spoke more slowly this time. "Anna." "Yes, Anya." "Oh, this motherfucker thinks this is cute," I realized. "He thinks we're playing a little game." "It's Anna," I said, and I put on my most fearsome face. "Aw, Anya." He reached down and ruffled my hair. I snapped my head around to face my dad. "Are you going to let him get away with this? This is the name of your beloved mother, may she rest in peace, which means that this man, this Ruski, is making a mockery of your flesh and blood twofold." He noticed that I was on the verge of a tantrum and picked me up. "I think she's a little tired." "Oh, is that right?" And so I saw. I was going to have to fight and claw to be taken seriously in this life, and probably never quite succeed. I still try to be serious, but apathy has become a part of me now in a way that my 6-year-old self couldn't have foreseen. I've never been able to muster that righteous indignation of my elementary school years. Back at school, I tried to embrace the smallest thing in every category. Favorite instrument in the orchestra? The piccolo. Favorite animal? The shrew. Favorite country? Monaco. And my favorite planet? Pluto. Screw you, Neil deGrasse Tyson. Always being the smallest also gave me a specific role in life. It gave me an identity. Lining up by height? Excuse me while I give you a starting point. gymnastics day in gym class, I'll prepare myself to be thrown. On one family cleaning day, my dad bought an extendable duster to clean under low tables, and I lost my mind because I thought I no longer had purpose in the family. He threw away the duster and went back to letting me do a mediocre job crawling under the furniture. First grade led to other discoveries, too. I was small, I was loud, I had ratty hair, but I suspected something deeper was wrong. One day I tried to articulate this suspicion to my mother. It's like I have a different heart. The other girls have one kind of heart, and I have a different kind. My mom was understandably confused. Are you saying they're mean? No, I don't know. Saying other kids were mean felt like I was saying I was more kind, which definitely wasn't it. More anxious, maybe. More sensitive. I guess all I was feeling was that I was different. Sometimes I'll be at work or a party, and I get that same feeling. I am not like these people. I don't know what I'm doing here. And it comforts me to know that I felt that way as a child, too. Maybe that should make me feel worse, but it makes me calm and resolved. I've been prepared to be an outsider most of my life. I remember every slight. You've been warned. In 4th grade, I managed to get a good thing going when I discovered the secret to female bonding, the sleepover. 6 girls from school would come over to my house, and we'd roll out sleeping bags in the spare bedroom above the garage. This became a regular thing, and for the first time, I felt like I had a steady group of friends. Even if my attempts at social interaction throughout the school week became awkward and tiresome, by Friday, it was sleepover time again, and all was forgiven. One weekend, I went out of town for a dance recital, and when I came back, I was informed that a sleepover had taken place without me. Apparently, since my house hadn't been an option, Tori had offered to host. Tori wasn't in the group, but she'd seen her opportunity to usurp me, and she took it. I didn't like Tori. Tori was mean. If I'd known it was good for me, I would have just shut up and accepted that we could alternate weekends. Maybe I'd even have to invite her over from now on, but it'd be a small price to pay for true friendship. Sadly, my sense of justice would not allow me to make this sacrifice. I'd rather be right than happy. I reminded the girls that we as a group didn't like Tori, that she was a bully, but no one listened. The next day in the playground, I was standing in line for the monkey bars, thinking about what I would say if I ever met the cast of Boy Meets World, and then I was on the ground. Fuzzy black stars appeared and dissolved in slow motion, and when my vision came back, I felt a choking sensation. I was being dragged across the gravel by the collar of my army jacket. Tori. I scratched and clawed at her, but she was big for our grade. She towed me across the playground and under the slide. When I was put on my feet, I stood in front of a tribunal of the sleepover gang, who were standing in over-the-top indignant poses. The slide of this particular playground was flanked by a wooden climbing wall, a normal wall with an old rope on it. So when you were underneath it, you had a degree of privacy. Students had taken to scratching their initials into the backside of the wall's soft wood, which gave this dark corner of the playground a kind of menacing Victorian asylum quality. Something new was here. Haphazardly written in some kind of magic marker were the words, "Mary D is a jerk." In fact, as my eyes began to adjust, I saw that hastily scrawled insults about every girl in our group had adorned the wall. Based on the manner in which I'd been summoned to the meeting, I knew it was coming. I tried to protest. I didn't do it. I was their friend. I mean, Mary D is a jerk. Amanda sucks. Why would I write a bunch of mean stuff about my friends, using such generic insults? I noticed how high the writing was placed, and I rushed toward the wall to demonstrate that I couldn't have done it. I wasn't even tall enough. Surely they could see that. Once I started to reach my arm up, though, it looked like I'd be able to make it if I got up on my tippy toes. But I made a big show of flailing my hand just beneath the writing to keep my heels firmly on the ground, as though I was the kind of person you couldn't balance otherwise. This was a setup. I suggested alternative suspects. I tried to look as outraged for my friends as they were themselves. I knew it was Tori. It was so obvious. I couldn't believe I'd even have to say it. But she was tall, and I was outnumbered, so I wasn't about to accuse her then and there. Once we were back in the classroom and under the safety of adult supervision, I made the rounds to each girl. I whispered that it had to be Tori, that she was trying to squeeze me out, that they were giving her exactly what she wanted. Sadly, by this time, they were enjoying their dramatic game of cold shoulder too much. It would have spoiled their fun to stop hating me. The next day, I regrouped. Sure, I was starting to hate them right back, but I had been wronged and this would not stand. I doubled down on the too short angle, took a ruler outside at recess and recorded the results. The measurements were shoddy, but what my evidence lacked in accuracy, I made it for in volume. That's how you save a friendship. Comprehensive documentation. I also pointed out that defacing property was not in my nature. I read about the disappearing beaches in National Geographic Kids, and my anxiety about the environment went through the roof, so I did not condone waste, littering, or graffiti. I even argued that the use of the word suck should have eliminated me from suspicion because I was against swearing. Oh, sweet naive younger me. They would not be moved. The harder I tried to prove my innocence, the more I revealed my true nature, and eventually their motivation for shunning me transformed. It became less about the alleged betrayal, and more about their aversion to a hyperactive little weirdo. They moved on from being angry and settled into just not liking me. This is how supervillains are created. I thought that was pretty funny. That is her first chapter. She has some more good stuff. She talks a lot about doing theater as a kid. And maybe I'll read a little bit more later. I just wanted to share. I thought it was a very funny book. And yeah, well, I hope you guys have a lovely night sleep or nap or just chill time. Thanks so much for listening. Love you guys. Bye.